Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning for the launch of our elder abuse helpline and reporting line. I'm enormously grateful to Crimestoppers, who've been great partners to work with as we've conceived this campaign, which had its origins about a year ago when I became increasingly concerned about elder abuse. We all have our own stories to tell, and my own personal experience of helping look after my mother-in-law who had very serious vascular dementia, entirely dependent on other people, and you see just how vulnerable our old people can be. We spend a lot of time, don't we, worrying about child abuse, and rightly so, but we've got so many elderly people who are entirely dependent on others, are enormously vulnerable. I want to do something about it, and I wanted to find out about the problem as well, so we conceived the idea of having a line where anybody with concerns that an elderly person might be being abused could report. We're great partners with Crimestoppers. They do huge work in helping to reduce crime. An anonymous reporting line that Crimestoppers report, which is hugely important to those who may have something to say about crime. And I knew they were the people to go to. I'm also hugely grateful to Fiona this morning for coming to join us. Thank you very much indeed for taking the trouble. And I know that you too care very much about this topic. This is about providing a way of reporting concerns about the wide range of abuse that can happen to our elderly people. It might be physical abuse at its worst, it might be sexual abuse, and increasingly we hear such tragic stories of that happening. But it can also be emotional abuse, it can be neglect, and it can be financial abuse. And abusers can be a wide range of people. They could be family members, they could be carers, perhaps carers in a care home, but also carers in people's own homes. And we need to be able to have the confidence, all of us need to be able to have the confidence of reporting a concern, if it's a family member, if it's a fellow carer, if it's just a story we've heard, or if indeed you're being abused. If you're being abused, please have the confidence to ring this number. Crimestoppers will explain a little bit more about how that will work, but I've got great confidence in them, and I've also got great confidence in what will happen if you do report after that. We'll have a little bit more about that later, and we're certainly happy to take questions about it. This is an experiment, it's a pilot. I don't know if it will be successful. If we all knew everything we were going to do was going to be successful, we'd never do anything, would we? But I do have a real concern. I want there to be that opportunity. We'll monitor this for 9 months, and we will see what level of reporting we get. We'll see what happens to those reports, and then we can evaluate it in 9 months' time. So this is a start of a journey. It's speak up to report elder abuse or concerns about elder abuse. And I hope that between us we can make a difference to people's lives. So I think without ado, I'm going to hand over to Mark. Thank you very much indeed.
Best till last. Good morning, I'm Mark House, I'm Chief Executive of Crimestoppers, and it's my very great pleasure to be here today. We're extremely pleased to be part of this campaign to tackle elder abuse, and it is really the result of months of hard work with the Office of the Essex Police and Crime Commissioner and the safeguarding boards of Essex, Thurrock and Southend to ensure that this line will run effectively and efficiently. Time will tell, but we hope it'll be a resounding success, and if that's the case, we're really hopeful that we'll be able to roll this out in more parts of the country, but that's something for the future, not something for the present. And we're really hopeful that that 0800 032 7644 number will be something that really resonates with people and that they'll use on a regular basis. So why are we involved? Well, since the charity Crimestoppers was founded in 1988, we provided a unique service that's allowed people to report information safely, securely, and above all else, anonymously. And in that time, we've taken over 1.6 million pieces of information that we've passed on to police and wider law enforcement in the country. And as a result of that, somewhere between 15 and 20 people are arrested each and every day. And that's why our service is so integral to the overall campaign that we're launching here today. And we want to give a voice, we want to allow people to speak up, those people that traditionally have not had the opportunity to do that. It can be difficult to be heard, and indeed to speak up about this difficult issue, especially when the perpetrator might be someone that you trust, someone who should care for you, someone who should be acting with your best interests at heart, but sadly they're not. For many in this situation, reporting to authority directly is too difficult a step to take because they simply fear the repercussions. But this shouldn't mean that that abuse goes unchecked and that the perpetrator is free to potentially target other victims too. And that's where Crimestoppers comes in. It's important to have an independent phone line, and an online reporting form as well. So it's a phone line or an online reporting form that people can contact as safely, securely and anonymously without any fear whatsoever of being identified. And when they do contact us, as Nick said, we'll make sure that that information goes exactly to where it needs to go. And together with the Essex authorities, we've ensured that all our call agents have been professionally trained to know exactly what they need to do when they're talking to people at what will inevitably be a very sensitive time. It's essential that they know what questions to ask in order to get the most useful information out of them. And then that information will be passed in one of two ways. It'll be passed, whatever happens, directly to this appropriate safeguarding board of either Essex, Thurrock or Southend. And if there's any suspicion of criminal activity having taken place, it will of course be passed directly to Essex Police as well. I do stress though that this reporting line is for the whole community. It's not just victims. We want to hear from anybody, any suspicion of elder abuse being taken or carried out, whether you're a concerned friend, a family member or somebody in the workplace. And let's be frank, abuse can happen absolutely anywhere, in care homes, in hospitals, community services, but also in the home as well. So it's important that people have got the confidence to speak up and speak to us directly. I think also there's a wider messaging part as well. This campaign isn't just about encouraging people to report it. It's also about getting across the message that it's completely unacceptable to carry out this kind of abuse on any way, shape or form. And we want to assure victims and their families that it is an issue that we're taking very, very seriously indeed with our partners in Essex, and we want to stamp it out. Our elderly communities deserve dignity and respect, and above all else, a life free from fear. We've got a duty to protect them, and I'm quite delighted to be involved in partnership with Essex, as they call what Nick, I think, refers to in separate conversations as this hidden harm that's plaguing our community. It's an incredibly important project for us, especially as at Crimestoppers we've recently revamped our strategy for the next 5 years. And one of the key pillars of our future work is to engage with more hard-to-reach communities. And to be frank, I can't think of any more deserving, any more hard-to-reach community that is so worthy of our investigation and our support than the elderly. We want to continue to build confidence in our service so that more people feel empowered to take action, and in doing so, support the regeneration of communities and make them safer places for everyone. That's more than enough from me, but just a couple of thank yous for people who've been involved in this initiative. We've got everybody who's come here today, of course, but especially Age UK Essex, Andrew Gardner, their CEOs in the back here today, and Age Concern, who've so generously and been incredibly positive and supportive and allowed us use of this wonderful facility here today as well. And lastly, it would be completely remiss of me not to say a big personal thank you to the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner for Essex and Nick Alston in particular for actually having the strength of character and to actually be the first of any PCC in the country to sponsor a specific line to tackle this very serious issue. I'll now hand over to Fiona, who I know believes very passionately in the importance of this subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, yeah, my name's Fiona Phillips, and thank you for asking me here. First of all, yeah, it's lovely to hear your passion as well. Ever since a child, I loved my grandparents so much, as most children do, and you share secrets with your grandparents that you don't share with your parents. You talk to them, you laugh with them, they give you secret coins behind your parents' back, and you know, I loved my grandparents, and from a very early age, I could never ever understand why older people were talked about in derogatory terms or neglected. My mum loved older people as well, and I can remember being dragged around the neighbourhood with mum's blackberry crumbles going into flats and houses all over the place. So I was very much brought up, as we all were, around older people, but my mum had a real love for them, and that was passed down to me because I loved my grandparents so much. So I've always had this real passion about being able to speak up for older people. I'm heading that way myself now. So I'm doing it before I get too old, because, you know, people when they get older, people don't listen to them anymore, and that's a sad fact. I think it's changing, and hopefully it will change because of the line that you're about to put in place from today, in fact. I have experience from my parents. In fact, I'm sorry I was late. I was just doing something for Comic Relief, who have given over their Red Nose Day line today to 4 people who have early onset Alzheimer's, telling so that they can make people aware of what it's like to go through that and share their thoughts of the condition and how they spend their days. So sorry, that's why I was late. But another reason why I feel very, very passionate about what Nick's brainchild is that both my parents had early onset Alzheimer's, and because I had just had my first baby when it all happened, I was in had a big job which I really considered giving up, and eventually did because of the strains of looking after my parents and working and 2 children and ignoring my husband for years. I had to use care for both of my parents basically, and I don't want to name anyone, but I have experienced that. My father I kept separate, living in a flat on his own because I knew he wouldn't want to go into a home, and I've experienced financial abuse definitely, and it's really hard to keep your eyes on it, and you can't believe it's happening because people are going in and looking after your dearly beloved parents and stealing from them and exploiting them. And I've also suffered, well, I hope it wasn't my neglect, but we didn't realise my father had Alzheimer's because both of my parents had it, both at the same time, but my mother was getting towards the later stages as my father was in the early stages. So Mum had died, Dad was living on his own. He wouldn't, every time I went to visit him, he was in Wales, he wouldn't let me in, he wouldn't let me into the house at all. I was in contact constantly with social services, and then eventually when he did let me in one day, this was about 6 months since Mum had died and he'd been behaving very, very oddly. Social services were supposed to be paying him visits. He finally opened the door to me with tears in his eyes and almost as if he was relieved to finally be letting me in. He was living in absolute squalor. It was clear that no one had been going in there, and I thought he was being looked after, and it absolutely broke my heart. And I moved him nearer me then, which is a trial in itself. But yeah, I've seen, unfortunately, when care can go wrong. There are loads of brilliant carers out there, and I've seen how easy it is to exploit older, vulnerable people. And indeed, I can't understand the mentality of people who do that. I also was very fortunate, although it was a harrowing subject, to do a panorama on elder abuse, which got a very big audience for a panorama. I thought that it was going to be a very hard subject for people to watch, but it got over 4 million viewers, which shows that there definitely is a growing awareness out there. There's a passion, and I don't think we are alone in feeling really passionate that vulnerable people really do need to be protected. So I know it is your passion that's driven this, Nick, and I couldn't be more proud to be here, so I always go off at this. So thank you so much, because, these people who are vulnerable need people to fight for them if they're no longer able to. And I know you know what dementia's like, and people with dementia are very, very vulnerable to exploitation. So thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
I'm
very
very proud
much
to
indeed.
be here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. Fiona, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing in such a personal way, and I'm really grateful to you for that. Thank you also for mentioning, the wonderful many carers there are. Many are elderly people, really are well looked after. It's unglamorous work. We know that. It's not well paid work. We know that. And there are many wonderful carers. And to all of those, I would say thank you. This is not about those. This is trying to get things when things go wrong. And so my thanks to Age Concern for letting us use their facilities. My thanks to the safeguarding boards in Southend, Essex and Thurrock who've given us such strong support for this. Thank you for that very honest account.
I'm Freda Mountain. I am chairman of Age Concern Chelmsford, which is a lunch club for the elderly. But there's many other things that go on in this building as well that fits in with the community life. One never knows what's behind those curtains and doors. Some of it's very secretive. They can't tell you because they're frightened to, and they've got no one to talk to. You hear stories, but you don't know whether they are true or not. So where do you go from there? I very much welcome this setup. Absolutely fantastic. couldn't have anything better. If Childline is a success, then Elder Abuse Line would equally be a successful telephone number for contacts to get some help. It could be something very personal and private. It could have an adverse effect. One never knows. And where do we go from here? Who do we contact? If we're an outsider, we don't like to intrude in other people's line, a line that people can get in contact with, and also that they know that they're not alone, that this line is specifically for elderly and the abuse that they think is going on, and we can leave it like that, and they don't have to get involved because the necessary people will be there to take it up on their behalf, to just investigate. There is that odd occasion when you think, oh dear, should I have done it? But you never know, that important call might be very, very vital to someone. Whether it is anonymous, you know, it is anonymous, but whether it is, what shall I say, followed up and not be true, well, that's better than not reporting it at all. So I think that sums it up. We as Age UK and Age Concern are vital and absolutely be fantastic that we've been involved, because this is something that's got to be done. In this day and age, it is a very much a vital line and a very much useful service as well. We have been going for a number of years, too many, more than I can say, but in this building itself, we cater for the elderly to come socialise, have fun, have talks, and also we have people come and tell us about the police visitors, about keeping safe in the home. We have other fire brigade who come and make sure that we're safe in our home with fire appliances and things like that. We also have the one and only bingo on Tuesdays and Fridays, which is a roaring success.
What's the top prize?
Oh, about first line, it's about £1.50, but it could be anything about £3.50 to £5, depends on how many are playing. So that's the excitement on Tuesdays and Fridays. But not only that, we have art classes on Thursdays and Fridays, afternoons, and they've got some very talented people here as well. So yes, this is throughout the whole of the week, Monday to Friday. We are open from 10 o'clock until 3, or 2:30 to 3. But also at the weekends, we have on Saturdays, we have the Stroke Club who come and use the premises, a very vital organisation for people with strokes. They use it on a Saturday. And also the occasional Saturdays when the Stroke Club aren't in, we have a young embroiderers, and they come and do embroidery and knitting and all sorts of things, which is absolutely fantastic. They're taught on this.
And you've got the Crochet Club here.
We have a crochet club, they do some lovely work. And very talented ladies they are too. But on Sunday, we have a church group that use our premises, and they love it. It's lovely to walk down here and hear the strains of the different type of happy, clappy, happy music, as I call it, and they are a joy to have. So as you say, this is really for a community, which is very, very vital in Chelmsford.